Hey there, Mr. Usher here, doing a recording for one of my classes. Excuse me. In this case, my half-credit classes, so those are the ones that meet during either 5th period or 8th period. So this is going to be for the lesson from either May 18th or May 19th. That would be, check the calendar here, be either, Wednesday, May 18th for my 8th period class, and Thursday, May 19th for the 5th period. So those are the ones you're looking for. If you're a different class, please look elsewhere, right? Anyway, the topic for this lesson was treating mental illness, just very broadly. The class basically began with this video. It's from the Crash Course Psychology series. And in particular, I wanted you guys to focus on this date range, or this time range here from 1 minute 11 seconds to 9 minute 45 seconds. Feel free to watch the entire video if you want. It's not necessary, though, for this lesson. Essentially, in this video, they go over 3 different types of therapy. I'm going to briefly summarize them myself for you, but they also kind of go over them in more detail in the video. So, first, the 3 types they go over is the psychodynamic approach to psychotherapy. This is actually related to an older school of therapy called psychoanalysis, which is credited to the famous or infamous, depending on your point of view, Sigmund Freud, right? So Sigmund Freud developed psychoanalysis, or actually co-developed it, but it's typically credited to him. And psychoanalysis was, as the name kind of implies, a way to analyze the psyche of the person, right? So the person was less another person that you were talking to and having a conversation with, and more somebody that you were studying by kind of trying to prompt them with things. My apologies there. You're trying to prompt them with things in order to get them to reveal some kind of hidden unconscious information. So this would typically be somebody, laying back on a couch, right? Maybe talking about their childhood. The therapist might prompt them, say, with word association, right? You might just say, okay, tell me the first word that comes to your mind when I say these words, right? So you basically kind of list a series of words out. You read each one of them in turn. They give you a word in response, and the idea is less that you're kind of secretly revealing something with the pattern that they have, and more that they will kind of unconsciously admit something that's on their mind by doing that. You could also discuss dreams, because dreams, according to Freud, are this window into a person's psyche, or their unconscious, right, which is normally not accessible. And he wrote a whole book on interpreting dreams. So not always the most scientific view, right, because some of his stuff was just based on conjecture or, kind of 1 or 2 experiences with people. However, this is essentially, his approach to psychotherapy, right? He kind of wanted to tease out these secret things from people. That's psychoanalysis. Psychodynamic psychotherapy is philosophically fairly similar to this, but it's a little bit more personal. You'll probably sit down, 2 people across from each other and actually talk, in more traditional kind of, and more kind of conventional modern talk therapy. There's also a bit more science behind it, right? Actually kind of using some studies about unconscious thoughts or sexual desires or relationships with parents to kind of bolster that. But again, the idea is early childhood experiences and unconscious thoughts and feelings are kind of the thing that the psychodynamic psychotherapist is trying to get at and then to treat, right? Because they think that's the root of your problem. So that's the first style. Second style is the the humanistic existentialist approach. Humanistic basically refers to an approach to philosophy that champions human beings and their unique abilities to think, reason, abstract, that kind of a thing. And then existentialism is another kind of philosophy that basically focuses on our impending mortality, our conscious awareness of this, and our free will, right? So what these therapies do is kind of try to empower you to help you achieve something called self-actualization. That's the ultimate goal of humanistic psychotherapy, self-actualization, which is basically you becoming the best version of yourself, you realizing what is truly valuable and important to you, and then achieving those things and being the person that, is the person you want to be, right? So to do this, there's a very kind of loose, more informal style to psychotherapy. First and foremost, the therapists refer to the people they're working with either as clients or just people, because they want it to be personal. They don't want it to be disconnected and super cold. There's going to be this kind of constant close listening and sympathetic ear, right? The space that they are doing the therapy in should be very comfortable and open and welcoming. They use something called unconditional positive regard, where essentially no matter what they're told about a sincere feeling that the individual has, the therapist will listen to this using something called active listening, where we kind of parrot back what they said or kind of make sure that we are explicitly telling them what we said. We'll use active listening, and then unconditional positive regard is essentially the person the therapist rather, kind of reaffirming the validity of somebody's feelings, even if they personally disagree, right? So the person may tell you, that they feel very strongly about a topic that is like of a political nature, right? Maybe they feel very strongly about this political issue, and in your head you're thinking like, oh wow, I'm way on the opposite side of the issue from this person. But you don't tell them that, right? That's not the point of the therapy. The point of the therapy is to say like, yeah, it sounds like you feel really strongly about this issue, and it's perfectly valid for you to have formed a well thought out opinion like you have, right? So this validates the person, helps them to feel like they are a full, complete person, because humanistic psychotherapy assumes that ultimately it's kind of this wearing down on you from society that is the root of your issues, whether it's depression or anxiety. It assumes that modern society has kind of worn you down and kind of taken away your ability to feel like a truly self-actualized individual. So they want to fix that by self-actualizing you, right? The third style is called cognitive behavioral therapy. It actually combines two separate but often overlapping therapies, cognitive therapy and behavioral therapy. It kind of, because of those two schools, focuses on two main techniques. One is essentially something called diagramming, which has to do with how our thoughts, feelings, and our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors relate to each other. The idea with cognitive behavioral therapy is that each of these three can affect the other. So, right, the feelings can affect the thoughts and behaviors. The thoughts can affect the feelings and behaviors, and the behaviors can affect the thoughts and the feelings. So it's constantly this feedback triangle, so to speak. Because of that, by examining different links between thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and trying to apply rational analysis to them, we have a chance of not only getting the person to rethink this, but literally rewiring the brain, because there's actually neurological evidence to show that the brain starts to form different pathways through it, which may be more healthy and less clinically significant, right? Less anxious, less depressed, less psychotic than what the person, is currently experiencing, right? So that's one part of it. There's also behavioral conditioning. So this may be doing something like exposure therapy, right? Where maybe if somebody, say, has a phobia, maybe they have a phobia of, you don't really have anything around me, but they might have a phobia of, say, snakes, right? So they'll maybe kind of do a step-by-step process where they gradually expose the person to more and more intense versions of that stimulus, which is the snake, right? So maybe at first they're just kind of showing like a line that like squiggles, on a piece of paper. So not even a snake, just kind of something vaguely snake-like. Then they show kind of the same motion, but from like an actual snake. Then they show like, a full video of a snake, maybe even like hunting something. So not really there with a snake, but, you're watching it. Then maybe they have to go to the reptile house at the zoo and watch the snake behind the glass up close. And then finally they would have to do something where they would actually maybe hold the snake and handle it, right? And all the while the therapist would kind of work with them, joining them whenever possible and creating kind of a soothing, relaxing environment. Hopefully one where they could practice mindfulness techniques that can help them to keep calm, regulate their biorhythms, like their breathing and their heart rate. That way the person can gradually associate the stimulus with something that's like, oh, okay, this is okay. I can be calm in this situation. I don't need to freak out. Good. And that's the ultimate goal of the behavioral conditioning. You gradually go from being completely afraid of the stimulus to being tolerant, at least, of it. You're probably never going to love snakes, right? But at least you won't have this terrible, debilitating phobia. Anyway, those are the three styles. Check out the video if you want more detail, please. The rest of the class was an activity we did where I tried to simulate these, right? Kind of getting into a little bit more detail with these styles than I just went into with you guys. I actually had students sit down with me if they were comfortable with it, and I would kind of therapize them, so to speak, with one of the styles. Kind of trying to show the comparisons and the contrast between them. So if you missed that, I'm sorry, but, it was pretty fun, so try and check it out if you can. The last part is a ticket out the door. Basically what I'm asking you to do is to just thoughtfully compare these three different styles, and after comparing them, just like in your head, write me a few sentences about which style of therapy you think is likely to be most effective and why. That's it. So, any more questions, please ask me. Otherwise, I'll see you later. Oh, this is awkward.